Hello, and welcome to the Admittedly podcast. My name is Thomas Khalil. I'm the former director of MBA admissions and financial aid for my alma mater, the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. In this podcast, I don't promise easy answers or quick fixes, but I will use my decades of experience to help you achieve your education goals. Now let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Admittedly podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Khalil, and today we're going to take a minute to look at the MBA application process, specifically the two main standardized tests that are requested by MBA programs, the GRE and the GMAT. Getting a lot of questions around which test should I take? Do schools have a preference? The answer, like most of my answers, is it depends. Let me break that down a little bit for you. The first thing you can do is take a diagnostic test on the GRE and the GMAT. See if one of them speaks to you. They're very different tests, and you may find that you do better on one than the other. I also urge you to consider what your overall application strategy is. If you are an undergrad, for example, and you're looking at applying to some early action or deferred admission MBA programs, then the GRE might be better for you in some ways because it does give you some options, right? So let's say that you decide not to do an MBA, you want to pursue a master's degree or different graduate degree. The GRE is going to be a little bit more flexible because it's accepted by a lot of programs. Let's say you want to go for a Master of Public Policy, or Master of Finance, or something like that. Certainly that GRE score is going to be important. Now, where the strategy comes in is when you're looking at the tests, they're very different, right? So we want to look at our background. We want to look at the type of program we're applying to. So you have to do your research on the particular MBA programs you're applying to. Are they quantitatively rigorous, or do they take more of a, let's say, a softer case-based approach where the quantitative rigor is not the primary focus, right? If you are applying to a quant-forward MBA program, let's say Chicago, Wharton, MIT, for example, then they are going to want to know that you have the quantitative abilities required to be successful in the classroom, right? That it's their job as admissions to make sure that they're not setting you up for failure. Now, how can you demonstrate that? You can demonstrate that through your undergraduate academic rigor and work. So for example, if you were an engineering major in undergrad, you had a 3.8, 3.9 GPA, you've gone to work in finance or some other quantitative related field, then look, the GMAT is going to be icing on the cake, right? They're going to assume that you're going to do very well in the quant, and you need to do that. But it kind of shows, hey, I am good at this. I can do this. They might look at the verbal section a little bit more closely, especially too for international students. They want to make sure that you are going to be able to participate in all aspects of the education experience, from class discussions to learning teams to, writing reports and homework and present yourself well in recruiting and all of those good things. If you have a quantitative background and you take the GRE, it could be perceived, it doesn't have to be, but it might be perceived that you're kind of hiding from the GMAT because the GMAT is considered the more quantitatively rigorous exam. So I'm not sure that that's going to reflect particularly well on you. Similarly, if you have what we would refer to as a non-traditional background, let's say you were a history or international relations major in undergrad and you've been working in the nonprofit sector or consumer products or something where there's not a strong quantitative spine to what you've been doing, then we want to look at this two ways. The first is there's an argument for taking the GMAT because it shows, hey, I can handle the quantitative rigor. Look at my quantitative score. I'm in the 90th percentile. I can do this. If you, let's say, have an English literature undergrad major, you've been working in the nonprofit sector, your thesis for MBA is, look, I know I'm going to struggle. I know it's going to be hard, but I want to build my own nonprofit and I need this rigor. Then the GRE might be a good option for you, right? The GRE, a lot of schools brought in the GRE because they realized it opened them up to a lot of non-traditional students. And so that's a way for you to say, look, I have the quantitative ability. I'm not going to be the top quant in the class, but I can do this. This maps with my undergraduate experience. And so there's a nice strategic story to be told there. So as with most things in admissions, I'm not able to give you a clear answer one way or the other because it really is case by case and dependent on the individual strategy, background, and applicant. But hopefully I've been able to demystify this a little bit and give you some idea based on your own profile and your own strategy of what's going to work best for you. Thank you for joining us today. Please take a moment to subscribe to the Admittedly podcast and download this episode. I welcome you to share your thoughts and questions with me. You can find us on social media at Admittedly Podcast. I look forward to continuing our journey together.